Hey folks, I'm Ben Beirly with Rebuild Illinois. I'm your host, and today we are doing a candidate interview with Peggy Hubbard, who is running for U.S. Senate, of course, from the state of Illinois. And we are excited to have her here. She is running for the second time. She's doing very well for herself, and she has a good, friendly interview coming up. We're looking forward to it, and we'll go ahead and bring her in. And she's, by the way, Peggy is served in the Navy. She is a mother of 6 and a grandmother of 22, and I'm looking forward to talking with you today. Welcome, Peggy.
Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me the time to come in and chat with you guys today and talk about my candidacy. I'm very honored and very humbled to be here today. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us. Let's get started. If you could, just in a couple minutes, can you describe yourself and your campaign for us?
Well, of course, Peggy Hubbard. I am running for U.S. Senate against the incumbent Tammy Duckworth. I am a Navy veteran. I also am a former police officer. I worked for the IRS for almost 17 years, extensive background in tax law. Um, I've been married to my husband, Charles, for 34 years. We raised 6 children, grandparents to 22. We live right here in Southern Illinois. My husband served over on the front lines of Ferguson. And I am one of the original walkaways who saw the light and left the Democratic plantation and became a hardline Republican conservative. And I am happy to be here and represent and try to represent the people of Illinois and give them some great representation and leadership.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction to yourself. And so you've been behind enemy lines, both as a Democrat for a little bit and in the IRS.
Yes.
So you kind of know how things operate, especially the games they play with the other side. I wish I could say that the Republicans don't play games, but establishment Republicans do.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. So let me ask you, why did you choose to run in this particular position as for U.S. Senate?
Well, I know it's a tall order, a big task ahead of me. But looking at what's happening in our country right now, we need strong leadership. We need everyday people to run, not these career politicians, not these all for myself, me, give me the spotlight. It's all about the people. And I saw firsthand that the people outside of Chicago were not being represented. Their values, their beliefs were not being met. So, what better than a mother, a wife, a former IRS employee who knows the ins and outs and the games that the government play with our tax dollars, uh, a person that wore the uniform and not only wore the uniform, but stood behind her husband who's been a cop for 34 years, and we have watched our country decline. So I knew first off it was going to be hard to do, to take on such a politician as Senator Duckworth, but it's not impossible, not at all,
Sure.
especially when you have the right attitude and the right, you have the heart to run, and I think I have that. And we don't have common sense in Washington D.C. We don't have common sense in our state capital right now. So it's important for Americans to step up and save our country, and I think I'm up for the task.
Well, I would ask you, our next question is about experience, but you kind of already answered all that. Is there anything more that you want to add? How about political office? Have you held any other political office yet?
No, and and I think that is not a negative. I think that's a plus because I'm going in untainted. I'm going in unbossed and my slogan is unbossed and unbrought. I don't have an agenda. I have an agenda, my agenda rather. Let me say that again. My agenda is to represent the people of Illinois. And like I tell people, I'm not here for the party. I'm here for the people. It's their agenda I will push. It's their voice that I will make known in DC. So I think me not holding office is a plus because Lord have mercy, we have people that have been in office like Dick Durbin since 1962. And these people are bought and paid for. I'm not. I have nothing to lose.
I think that's a very good answer. We can't assume that just because you held office that that's a good thing. I'd say you can have plenty of experience, but experience doing the wrong thing is not necessarily what we need. But you do have experience. You've been in the IRS, you've been in the Navy, and those are very applicable to, federal government
Mhm.
positions. So the next one is kind of hard, and I'm going to talk about Cook County, and we need to understand that there's really no pathway for a Republican to win statewide race without siphoning off some of the votes in Chicago and suburban Cook County. So, what is your plan to win over some of the Democrat voters in Chicago and suburban Cook County? And have you started to implement that plan yet?
I've been in Cook County since last summer. I've been in Inglewood. I'm a fixture now in Inglewood. People actually reach out to me on social media and email and ask me when am I coming back because they heard so much about me. They see me walking the neighborhoods and talking to constituents in that particular neighborhood. And Inglewood is a very rough part of Chicago. I can relate to Inglewood because I grew up in it in St. Louis. I grew up in North City, grew up in the projects.
Yeah.
So if anybody knows how to reach the people in those part of those communities in Chicago, I've already laid down the foundation. And matter of fact, I'm going back actually next week. So I'm a fixture there, and I have met so many Black voters that told me, you know what? I voted for Trump. I voted for Trump because I like what he represented and I like what he
Mhm.
stood for. And I never told anybody this until you came into our community. And there are a lot of us here, but nobody will talk to us. And you're the first one that actually comes here and talks to us. And not only do you talk to us, you listen. And so I'm in Inglewood. I've been up to McHenry County. I've been to Winnebago. I've been over to Joe Davies County. I've been to Lake County. I have been, like I said, out of 102 counties in this state, I have covered all 102. But I am hitting Chicago very hard. And I achieved something that has never been done. I actually got almost 500 signs inside the city, campaign signs in Chicago City.
Wow. Yeah.
So Peggy is there, and my name is known in Chicago.
You
So
know,
I'm
we
I'm going back.
we used to say in the Marine Corps, it's great to have air support, but you can't win a war without boots on the ground. So
That's right.
it
That's right.
sounds like you're very much in tune with that, and you're doing what needs to be done. That's good to hear.
Yes.
Okay, next tough question. This one is kind of the de jour issue, if you will, one of many. But women's sports is really under fire lately. With so many transgender people entering women's sports, biological women and girls are losing hope in competing in athletics. Do you have any solutions to ensure fairness and for biological women without discriminating against the transgender people?
Well, you know, it this
And is that possible?
I don't think it's people feelings are going to get hurt. We have to preserve what it is to be a woman, you know, and it's common sense. If you were born a man, and don't get me wrong, if that's what you want to do, good on you. I'm not going to stop you from doing that. If you want to change yourself from a woman to a man and a man to a woman, that's your right to do so. But we have got to preserve the rights of women. We have got to preserve the rights of young girls. They have worked and sacrificed. And I was an athlete in high school. And I ran track, I swam, I was on a gymnastics team, I was a cheerleader. And I think I would be so despondent if I saw someone who just decided, I'm going to be poof, I'm going to be a woman and I'm going to take part in these sports. It's not fair. It's not fair. And people say, well, it's discriminatory and you're being transphobic. No, I'm not being transphobic. Fair is fair, right is right. And we have got to protect the rights of women. And it's not fair for someone who's biologically the way God made them, a man, to now be transforming themselves and saying, I'm going to be a woman and I'm also going to take part. If you were born biologically a male, you should not be allowed to take part in women's sport because it's not fair to those women who actually sacrificed, did all the right things, and then have this taken away from them. It's not
Right.
fair.
Yeah, by
And
the time they make the transition, the testosterone has already run its course, and they have a lot denser bone and a lot more muscle packed on. That when they cut off the testosterone with medication, those muscles don't go away.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't go away. And also,
Mhm.
they're medically, chemically enhanced because they're actually taking supplements that allow them to produce certain attributes of a woman, their
Mhm.
hormones. So we're not allowed to partake in taking supplements when we're female athletes, but they do. And that's not a fair advantage. So it's not being fair. It's got to stop. We have to allow these women to play the sports that they have so deservingly practiced for, and they deserve to have their own sports. That's why it says women's sports. It doesn't say transgender sports. If you want to be fair, let's build a transgender sports arena for them to
Sure.
compete against other transgender individuals that identify as such. Let's make
That's
it fair.
that's one possible solution that I've heard come up is,
Mhm.
okay, let's do that, and then that would level the playing field.
Exactly. They would level the playing field and they will have their own category. And those women will actually be able to keep their sports and their dignity because
Mhm.
I've heard from women and they said to me that it is so embarrassing that they have to get out there and compete against a man. And they're absolutely right. So let's make it fair. Why don't we just have us transgender sports for transgender individuals to compete against those individuals? Let's make
Yeah.
it fair.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be discriminatory if
No,
if that's the solution that we all agree to. I don't see that as discriminatory.
it's not discriminatory. Matter of fact, I think it levels the playing field. It
Mhm.
keeps those women protected, and it also gives these individuals, these transgendered individuals, a chance to take the spotlight under their new identity and perform against other individuals. I think it's only fair. And I
Yeah.
would support a bill like that. I would.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, we talked about sports, and that's kind of in the education arena, and in this next one, uh, I'm going to give you some information, okay, or give our public the information here. Um, so, public education is failing our children in Illinois. The IllinoisReportCard.com reports that only 32% of students are proficient in math for the 2019 school year after completing the SAT. Only 38% of students are proficient in English language arts, and the Illinois Science Assessment Test shows 49% of students are proficient in science. So while schools have focused on mask and vaccine mandates
Mhm.
and the critical race theory, our students have become up to 3 times more depressed in the number of students, that are reporting depression,
Mhm.
and have actually fallen further behind in development. Do you have any policy proposals to fix public education, and do you support school choice?
I 100% support school choice. Let me tell you why.
Mm.
Chicago, outside of Chicago, is St. Clair County, East St. Louis. East St. Louis is the second, they have the second highest paid administrators. School District 189 has the second highest school administrators outside of Chicago. Their graduation rate is less than 30%. Their reading is on a third grade level. I had a young man, and I was a manager at one of the major department stores. And he came in for a job and just graduated from East St. Louis. He could not fill out the application, he could not read or write. I had to sit there, ask him the questions, and help him fill out the application. The man could not even tell time on a
And he
conventional clock,
graduated.
and he just graduated from high school 2 weeks prior. And they are the highest paid administrators outside of Chicago. And it is a shame because we, as parents, we have got to step up and do better. We have got to get involved in our school boards. We have got to get involved in our children's curriculum, their what's happening in our schools. If our children are not able to read, and right now this is happening in Baltimore, where they're filing lawsuits against the school board in the city and the state for their children lack of education. We're focusing on CRT, we're focusing on 1619 when we're not focusing on little Johnny's ability to read or write, and this mask mandate, which is not a law, and shutting down our schools. We actually set our children back in education almost 5 years. We have got to rein in, number one, the school boards are
Mhm.
a disaster. Parents, we need to start electing parents to go into these school boards and take over these school boards, because these educated individuals that are trying to tell us they know what's best for our children, they don't. Anytime your child is 19 years old, just graduating from high school, and cannot read or write, Houston, we have a problem. And nobody's talking about that. Another thing is also, you said school choice. If your school is failing the children, that parent should have the right to remove that child and send that child to another school. President Trump had a great idea about this. He was giving out vouchers. We need to bring that back. We also need to look at accreditation for some of these schools that are failing our children. No Child Left Behind should be eliminated and removed from all school policies. Because if that child cannot read or write, we're doing that child a disservice. We're actually
Most
building
definitely.
we are actually building another poverty class of people. So if they can't read or write, if they cannot perform proficiently, and now they want to take away the SATs to enter college because now it's deemed as being racist. If you can't read or write, how can you pass the SAT to go into college? So
The thing with the SATs is what they find when they make exceptions,
you should
the
not make
the
them.
dropout rate in those colleges goes up. So
Yes,
the colleges get the prestige of accepting these people, and they get the money, but the, the kids entering, they're
can't do the
ruined.
work. Right, they can't do
Right.
the work. They can't do the work. And I have a daughter who is a professor at one of the biggest universities here in the country. And she's at
Mm.
Washington University. And she's a liberal. I don't know how I raised one, but she believes that the SAT is deemed racist. And I told her, well, you actually got into college taking the SAT and you did remarkably well. I mean, she actually almost got a perfect score. So you want to eliminate something that you had to do in order to give someone a chance to come into college that cannot even do the work. It doesn't make sense to me. It's to me, it's actually setting these children up to fail. It
I was
really
about to say that. I was about to say that exact thing. Unfortunately, that's the case. Yeah.
you're setting these children up for failure. We're not addressing the real situation. We should be looking at why aren't the parents not involved with these children. I go to
Mhm.
the mall right here in St. Clair County, here in Belleville. I have a mall, which is the Fairview Heights St. Clair Mall. I see parents lining up for new Jordans every holiday season, but I never see parents line up for teachers conference to find out what's happening in their children's school and
That's a
their
cultural
education.
issue.
And
Yeah.
that is it. And this happens also in Chicago. No union should have that much power
Oh, it's
over
crazy. Yeah.
our educational system. No, no union should have that much power over our educational system. And Chicago and down here in Southern Illinois, School District Board 189 will power here in Illinois when it comes to school choice, school curriculum, uh, school financing, budgeting. These two counties, Cook and St. Clair, actually set the tone and the standards of how our educational system here in Illinois is run. And that needs to be addressed and that needs to be broken up. We need to stop this because we're failing our children. And
Yeah.
as senator, I'm going to look into that.
Okay. Well, I would love to keep talking on this issue because I am an educator, but we need to move on to
Sure.
that. And just let me say, I agree 100% with you on everything you said with regard to education. It's a policy issue. It's a cultural issue
Yes.
that we need to do the hard work of addressing it, and we're just kicking the can down the road.
And I'm
Okay,
sick
so
and
let's
tired of them using race as an
yeah,
excuse. And race in education
that's sad.
should never be an excuse.
Right. Okay, so let's move on to the next hot topic, election integrity. So in January 2022, an election integrity grassroots group began uncovering significant problems in the registered voter rolls in Illinois, including potentially well over 1 million phantom voters, such as duplicate and triplicate of single individual voter records, yet each have unique voter registration suggesting fake voters are more than 15 to 20% of all the registered voters here in Illinois. If elected, how do you intend to uncover and fix voter fraud in the United States?
Well, you're talking to a person that actually busted the second biggest county outside of Cook County for voter fraud. I did that. St. Clair County.
Thank you.
I became an election judge and
Mm-hmm.
I am a registered Republican, a black woman who walked in to East St. Louis, Washington Park Cahokia Heights, Allerton, and Brooklyn. They had me rotating around. And let me tell you, I caught voter fraud in real time as it happened and shut it down. I had people that didn't even live in the city that they were voting in. I had individuals that were coming in with power of attorneys trying to vote for other individuals. I had a gentleman that had three different IDs, three different addresses, three different
Wow.
towns, and was trying to vote. I also had a woman who lived in East St. Louis and came in and tried to vote two towns over. I called all of
Wow.
this. I called precinct committee members passing out $5 and 40 ounces of beer right here in East St. Louis. I caught city officials standing 2 feet from the door passing out flyers and $5 and
Wow.
shut it down. So you
Yeah,
want to talk about,
that's very illegal.
well, you want to talk about voter fraud? I caught it.
Hmm.
I shut it down. I contacted the media. I contacted the state attorney. I turned in the evidence of which I found voter fraud in real time as it happened and helped put two people away in prison for voter fraud. So if anybody knows about voter fraud firsthand is me because I confronted it, I dealt with it, and I shut it down. We need more Americans, we need more people to stand up. One thing we need to do is institute voter IDs. We need to do this. Voter IDs will squash and eliminate all of this. And right now, Arizona is leading the charge to change things there. They're requiring now voter IDs, and you must prove that you are an American citizen to vote. They had close to almost, they said somewhere in the ballpark of almost 100,000 illegals that were voting in one county. How is
Oh,
that? How is this? So we
yeah.
don't need the federal government taking over our elections because that would perjure, that would actually set up socialism and we
Hmm.
will lose this country. So we don't need that, but we need to keep it on a state level, but we need to institute voter IDs. We need to go in and start purging these roles. My aunt, who lives in East St. Louis all her life, called me hysterical at the polls. They literally had her voting absentee by mail. And this woman has never voted absentee or by mail in her life. But what we recovered that she voted absentee 6 times. Six,
Wow.
six.
That's
And
incredible.
I have been
Yeah, people
fighting.
say that they're, you hear the news outlets and they're like, oh,
Mhm.
there's no voter fraud. Well, just if they actually took a look, if they actually investigated rather than making the assumption, they'd find that out. I like the idea that you're thinking, that states need to be the ones to take the lead on this. I would say there's not necessarily anything wrong with the federal government saying states must institute um, a voter ID.
Yes,
Um, I would say though we need to go on. We're running long here, so I
sure.
want to get to the last question and then let you finish out after that. Okay. So federal spending is wow. It's really gone crazy. Actually, starting with George W. Bush. What is your plan to rein in the federal spending and eliminate the federal deficit? And with that, how can we reduce our federal debt?
We're not going to eliminate our debt. Our debt is it is what it is. You're talking to a person that crunched numbers for the government for 17
Hmm.
years. And let me tell you, you're not going to eliminate that debt. Right now, Biden's spending package, his Build Back Better, our great grandchildren will not be able to pay off this debt. We can't. But what we can do is stop the bleeding. We need to rein in, just like in a household, we need to rein in our spending.
Yeah.
You get a checkbook, you look at your checkbook and you see, oh, we have X amount of dollars in the bank, then we cannot buy this. We cannot spend this. That's the same concept we need in Washington, D.C.
So you're talking about eliminating deficit spending as a way to get control
Get
of
control, right.
the budget. Yeah.
And also our tax regulations are a big problem in our government. The IRS, I like to see us go to a flat tax. And people say, well, we need to tax the rich. The rich are already taxed at a higher rate. People don't understand this. They're already taxed at a higher rate. Right now, it's 21%. Now, with Biden's request, he wants to push it at 38.2%. That's unrealistic. The more you tax individuals, the worse it's going to get and the more money is going to get printed. The more money we flood into our
Hmm.
economy, the weaker the dollar becomes. People say, well, you can just print more money. You put more money out there, what's going to happen is it's going to weaken the dollar. The dollar's going to lose value.
Well,
We need
that's
to
like the $15 minimum wage. Is as soon as you print more money, all
exactly.
that advantage that you had in that $15 minimum wage goes away. And that happens time and again. And it's like you said, it's the printing of money that ultimately causes inflation to rise.
And that's what's happening. And when you
Hmm.
look at that, when you print that money, and working in the IRS as many years I have worked there are things that could be done that should be eliminated and taken away to help the economy rebound. One of the things is we're being taxed on top of tax. The what we call the AMT, the alternative minimal tax. You're being taxed on money you're already taxed on. So if you have a savings account, if you have money market account, if you have a stocks or bonds, you're already taxed on that money. And now under this tax law, you're going to get taxed again on top of that. So why are we doing that? That's one thing that needs to be eliminated. Another thing that needs to be done within the government is reining in our military spending. I want to be military strong, just like you. We're both
Hmm.
veterans, but we need to look at some real hard choices about what we spend in our military. We want to keep our military strong, but we also need to look at the spending that we do. Another thing we need to do is take us out of this climate accord that we're paying for. We're flipping the bill for climate accord. We're paying this. The United States already have the
Why
lowest
are
emission.
we paying the bill for other nations?
We are. I don't know why, but we are. And Trump took us out of this. We were
Hmm.
paying the lion's share. That's money that we could use in our country, reinvest in businesses, reinvest in small businesses, reinvest in education, put that money to good use, eliminating some of our country's debt. But yet we are spending all of this money on climate change and we're not getting anything out of it. We're actually paying everybody's share. President Trump took us out of that. And
That's
another
good.
and that's something some that's just some of the things I want to look at. But we have got to stop with our reckless spending. Our tax dollars are leaving our country to other countries. We need to take care of America first. And we're spending all of this money overseas and we're not taking care of our own. We're not taking
Yeah.
care of our veterans, our homeless. So the money that Biden wants to spend out to illegals, why aren't we using that money towards securing our infrastructure, our borders? These are the things that are not on the table in his new plan. We're not looking at those things. So, as far as
That's
spending,
a shame. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm not surprised to hear that though. because the welfare state creates, if you will, subjects, not citizens.
That's
And
right.
that is what the left is pushing for.
And they're
All right,
pushing for
so
it hard.
absolutely. So I'm going to say to all those who are watching this, if you're watching this on Facebook, please hit follow on our page. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe, as you always hear in the videos. And I'm going to leave it now for Peggy to close us out. If you could, please give us any final thoughts and make sure you give us your contact info, Peggy.
Well, my final thoughts is I am fighting for the people of Illinois. I am fighting for law enforcement. Um, Tammy Duckworth, I do admire her running and representing Illinois, but she has dropped the ball in so many issues. One of them is taking care of our veterans. She made promises that she was going to look after our veterans. Our veterans are still waiting. She wants to defund the police. And as a wife of a police officer who was shot in the line of duty
Hmm.
by a Black Lives Matter activist and survived, I am fighting for law enforcement in this state. I wore that uniform as a police officer. And I also know what it's like to get that knock at the door at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I am fighting for not only our law enforcement, I'm also fighting for our veterans. And most of all, now I am fighting for our children. And I'm fighting to make sure that these schools are not sexualizing our children and teach them their ABCs, not sex. It is not their job. And we need a senator that's going to push back and fight for those children. I'm also going to fight for our rural communities that has so for so long have been forgotten about. I'm also I'm pro-life, 100% pro-life. I am NRA. I will stand on the Second Amendment and constitutional rights, and I would like to see our state of Illinois become a constitutional carry state. The FOID card should be abolished. The
I
main thing
love you right there, Peggy.
I'm an NRA girl. I
Yeah,
believe in our Second Amendment rights should not be infringed.
I'm a
And
life
going
member
into
myself.
Washington D.C.,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to stand on that. You will not take away my rights to defend myself, my family, nor my property. And that is what it says in our Constitution, that the Second Amendment shall not be infringed. And I will stand behind that 100%.
Thank you.
100%.
And your contact info?
You can reach me at peggyhubbard.org. You can reach me also on Facebook under Peggy Hubbard for U.S. Senate, and also Peggy Hubbard, my public figure page. So I hope to see everybody out there, and I am very humble and grateful to be your first guest today. So thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Peggy. Now, for all of our viewers, if you want to see more of these interviews, like I said, please make sure you like and subscribe, because we are trying to actually interview all state candidates and federal candidates in this format. So if you want to see that, you want to see a nice friendly interview where you get to know the person, make sure you do that. Okay, thank you so much for coming today, Peggy.
Thank you.
And I look forward to watching your campaign, and hopefully you go this. Excuse me. Hopefully you go the distance.
I will go the distance. I
Thank you.
will. Thank you.